It's winter, and I'm thinking about Dark Souls. Winter is my favorite season. There are many pithy ways to explain this position I constantly feel the need to defend myself on, mostly because my own dear mother loves the spring and the summer. It was a playful push and pull between us. She would grow miserable and cold, huddled over space heaters, sticking hands into open ovens, shuddering loudly and vocally, while I, out of just a little bit of pettiness, relished in the bracing cold. I carry profoundly idyllic memories of winter from my youth, specifically around Christmas and winter break at my late grandmother's place. I remember it still in the abstract: thick, sticky, heavy snow, the kind you can crunch into with your paws and scoop and hurl at people. I feel like I should have more raucous memories: playful sledding, snowball fights, whimsical little moments of childhood play, okay, maybe it should be Christmas, right? Wouldn't that kind of make sense? Presents, the time I got a Nintendo Wii and played Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on it basically nonstop until I beat it 3 times that break. That side of my family was very transactional about gift giving. We would just tell them what we wanted and they would give it to us. I feel like I should have some kind of practical understanding of the season's benefits, but for as long as I can remember, my favorite moments are like this one: staring out the window as the snow falls. A call to the wilderness, perhaps, but there is something striking in it, in looking at a world going into hibernation and preservation. Nature must hide or wither, trees will lose their leaves, the bugs all vanish, and I get to ruminate on the subtle contradictions of my survival in the world at a time such as this. Given shelter as a commodity is something I don't even really think about no matter how much my rent payments go up. We have so totally conquered the brutality of winter on such a large scale, and yet I cannot help but feel something. Some kind of winding in my body, seeing the world out there, feeling its chill creep into my extremities. I want something. I yearn for something when I look out to the rest of the world like this, at times like these. Maybe it is a yearning to survive. Some base instinct in my body can recognize that the world could, given the chance, so casually undo me. Stories of people dying in the winter snowstorms, both poetically tragic tales in the mountains and real life, broad systemic structural failures like the ones in Texas or the nor'easters both leading up to my birth in 1992 or closing the year out in December. I myself was born as a blizzard hit St. Louis, Missouri, a factoid I often share as one of my aforementioned pithy defenses to my connection to the season, but I do find poetry in the circumstances around my birth and in creating a narrative that will connect them to who I am now. I actually want to talk about my favorite Christmas song. It has already come and gone by the time the video goes live, but here and now it is Christmas Eve for me. And I want to talk about the 1942 song White Christmas. I've never been a particularly festive soul. I haven't really been one to go caroling or dress up fancy or go to church or whatnot. I don't have a particularly ceremonial reverence for the mythology underpinning the holiday, but this song has stuck with me. Specifically, bafflingly, the version as performed by the Flaming Lips. I often find a lot of holiday-themed music to be kind of facile, music that is constructed to compel people in a really specific way. Sure, that isn't violent or manipulative or anything. There's nothing wrong in music to set you in the festive mood, but it renders the music itself often very function over form. Jingle Bells is not exactly a nuanced, dense song, and it doesn't have to be, but this song, with Wayne Coyne's distorted voice nearly caterwailing it through a megaphone, imbues this already kind of wistful piece with a sense of gravity. Far from the slick production of a festive song, this cover renders out so much of that cleanliness to unearth and unpack these wistful, longing components. It is an extremely simple song, 2 verses to its name in its most popular iteration with 1 coda, but it longs for something ephemeral that bleeds out all over the sonic landscape this cover creates. It paints a melancholy picture, but one with a clear desire and honoring of the season, the want to have what you seemingly cannot any longer. For all the trivia around the song's origins, this cover imparts on me the story of loss. Nowadays, I can listen to this and feel a kindred spirit with Disco Elysium on some level, a hard, abrupt pivot from the bleak mundanities of the real world to contend with a yearning for the divine found among it. Loss and finding a meaning in the face of staggering emptiness, while maybe not what any essayist writing about Dark Souls would call a central theme of the series, underpins the games from Demon's Souls on. It is an element in these games that is always in the room, there, but rarely stated directly. Dark Souls 2 is maybe the most direct, but even then the weight is in the losing of memory and the self. Characters, by and large, lose parts of themselves long after losing the part that recognizes what is happening to begin with. I think that more potently, these games draw on the way memory shapes the stories that shape the world around us. This is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I think that it is worth considering as one of the major departures from Demon's Souls, the game that kind of birthed the series as we know it now. Demon's Souls, for as wretched as it can be, its swamps, its skeleton-populated storm cliffs and grody tunnels full of monsters and lava, is a very active game. Everything is contemporaneously happening in Demon's Souls. You're being compelled to save a kingdom in an active crisis, a thing that you can meaningfully complete if you're a feminist and an ally like me. Contrast to Dark Souls, a game that starts you exploring what seems to be like the ruined aftermath of a kingdom. Every Mega Man stage in Demon's Souls is one in active crisis, and every zone in Dark Souls feels indifferent to your exploration through it. The games are starting from a position that people are living long enough to go mad and collapse into their worst impulses, and that conversation on the phenomenon of memory is carried through the trilogy. If Dark Souls asserts that the desire of humanity is to prolong the already bad world they know and have reckoned with, and Dark Souls 2 offers that on a long enough scale, people will witness the end of all things without the memory capacity to even comprehend it, Dark Souls 3 offers a grim hypothetical. What if memory is a prison? What if Dark Souls 2 was actually a pleasant, comforting kind of apocalypse? The game is, despite its profoundly melancholic nature, one of the most visually stunning of the series. Majula's first impression is one of stunning vistas and a moody but undeniably beautiful sunset scorching the horizon. Drangleic and the Dragon Area are impossible to comprehend, taking the totality of the world's geography, but they are themselves striking in their splendor. Hell, the much reviled Shrine of Amana is one of the most beautiful places in FromSoft's catalog. Dark Souls 3 trades in that glory for an uncompromising terminus of the world, down to the characters that populate it. Everything is ash-covered and rotten and decaying fast. Characters feel less like lives you're intersecting with, all of the last 2 titles, and more like oddities. Motivations at times hard to contend with, mostly because by and large most of these characters seemingly have little in the way of long-term goals. Outside of the few that can help change the end of the game, they are stuck perpetuating their trades or are otherwise seemingly awaiting their inevitable madness. You don't really get an NPC like Solaire anymore. The closest we get is Henri, and Henri can be important for sure, but at the end of the day, it too feels like a meager ember to the first Dark Souls sprawling canvas. At every turn in this game, it almost plays out like a requiem for the predecessor titles. Everything is dying, the sun is eclipsing, and you get to the final level and you turn around and see this. This is what the world is. For all the edge cases we can bicker here, for how much we can say that, hey, Irithyll is still really pretty, parentheses, don't look at the sewers, or pointing gently at some kind of progression Arena has, DS3 redoubles upon its statement here. Unfortunately, you and most of the NPCs you meet are very much aware of the times you all live in. That time is running out in a big way, and you are stuck inevitably moving to meet it. The only NPC I really want to talk about here would probably be the Firekeeper. Should you want, you can find Firekeeper eyes from the fucked up fourth wall breaking other Firelink Shrine of the Past. The one where you killed Champion Gundyr and never once died to him because I'm actually better than what's his name from The Completionist back when they did Let's Plays. I hate time. Upon giving them to her, she comments that her eyes can only see darkness with the tantalizing, lingering promise of flames, flickering like embers around the edges. I will give the lore theorists time here to explain how this sounds like the dark sign or something. Cool. So I take this as a deliberate gesturing to the reality of the world. Interpreting this as some kind of coping vision, some kind of promise that suggests that, should it be true, there's reason enough to end the Age of Fire. It makes sense. In the world of DS3, the Firekeepers have started to go blind as part of the ritual to better serve the flame, and while part of this is absolutely Miyazaki freaking it, this is also a willful denial of the reality of the world. Those embers could be literal, I suppose, but they are representative of the world they inhabit, a dead husk that needs to finally end for new fires to grow one day. Is any of that satisfying, though? I've been sitting on this script for much longer than I felt I needed to because, in looking at this, the evolution of this project from poetic musings on the seasons and how these games can be reflective of cycles of nature, now I feel... What? What exactly should I do? Wheel in Joseph Anderson, talk about drama around it. Dark Souls 3 is the middle child of everyone's appraisals of the series if Jacob Geller is to be believed, and I'm supposed to... What? Show off the sushi I had, because of course I had some? Talk about the winter, my feelings around it, mildly tug at some odd things about the game I like. I just feel now, at the end of it, like this project has become rote. While working on this video, my mind continues to drift on my bigger, more ambitious, more risky ventures. I know part of me can't help but approach this video with some modicum of cynicism. Why? Why bother at this point? This project is so categorically bad for my channel. Some of my worst performing work in a year of my worst performing work. It sticks in a very wicked place in my heart. I can't get over that on some level I've become painfully aware that this project is more for my own vanity and to declare a $50 meal on my taxes for content. Look at it. This one was actually pretty good, though. I know I'm burning myself out in this section, but it is worth mentioning that they somehow made raw fish and an arduous clam soup into something that felt overwhelmingly comforting, pleasant even. I don't know. Maybe this is what Miyazaki and the people at FromSoft were feeling with this project. Maybe everyone's suspicion that this was a pay-the-bills kind of game is just true, and in some way I'm playing in the shallows of reality by wanting to look at this game's story and find that the feeling of doing something out of obligation has to be more than just its meta-conversation. I am liable to believe the meta conversation on some level in this case. According to IGN, the president asked Miyazaki to work on DS3 while he was working on Bloodborne, and he said yes. And while he says in interviews that he was excited to get back into this project, again, so what? I think I've reached some very dark, cynical place at the end of darkness here. It's not even darkness year anymore. It's 2 weeks until my birthday, and about 2 weeks before I head back to work without health insurance, with The worry that at any moment my life could fully be undone, and I am here working on the finale of this project that categorically no one cares about, and I am still thinking of the Firekeeper's eyes. After you give them to her, she begs you to kill her and to take them back. It feels like a wildly mechanical idea of an interaction. You can't just take them back. You have to loot her corpse. If ever there were a detail that really draws the meta-narrative into sharp convergence with the game's text, it would be this, right? Being asked to perform a mechanical iteration on her to stop her from seeing the nightmarish truth of oblivion. I don't know. Look, a few days ago, this country seized a leader of a foreign power, and no one in government seems to be able to do anything. Whether that's true or not hardly seems relevant. Every day I'm refreshing my Medicaid application I had to redo because the mail took a week longer to mail something than I was told they would. I currently do not have health insurance, and getting coverage would add an extra $500 a month to my bills, and I can't shoulder that burden, so I will simply just go into work in 2 weeks and carry on with my life. I cannot help but feel like I am staring at an obvious oblivion some nights, and it scares me just what horrors I have been able to witness this year, and then go on with my day, not pretending it didn't happen, just knowing that it is simply what I have to do. Action without the oblivious blessing of amnesia, a world fully collapsing at the seams in front of eyes that know full well what that entails. A fire must be lit, or maybe it doesn't. It hardly seems to matter either way. Who you find, who you help. This is, what, the third time in the series you're given the choice to perpetuate the world as is or don't, and it draws into staggering focus that not only does this choice largely not matter, it's arguable that none of them ever have. Even Bloodborne's endings seem only to matter to you, how far you want to be involved in the horrific nightmare of reality, because it will go on with or without you. There is a cosmic cynicism in these games that make them as engrossing as they are, but now, in the depths of it all, staring into the encroaching doom, I cannot stop feeling it makes me realize that these agonies are not only real, but mundane. I watched a trans woman get fired from her job over grading a paper in a way the student didn't like. About as direct a threat to the stability of my life an event could pose, and that was now weeks ago, and I have just been quietly preparing to return to my classes, as though the lingering question of what my university would do under similar circumstances should I be the target just doesn't exist, isn't clawing at my brain. If this can no longer be the season finale of Darkness here, then I want to use this final moment to speak honestly to the most terrified parts of my heart. I know that I have a responsibility to the world around me to pull some kind of uplifting message out of this, but, this is, after all, art. Art that I've been defiling by smashing it headlong into extremely real atrocities that have blended into my background thoughts, mashing indelicately into the same space I've been using to cry about art that speaks to me, about my worries and feelings, about my brain's particular traumas, the worries that friends don't like me, that I'm supposed to now bear the weight, that at some point the delicate spun balance of my life will all collapse around me before I can even get to live out my dreams of moving closer to my friends, making art with talented people, and enjoying a good, real life. The foundations will rot out from underneath me, and I will most likely be whisked across the ocean for real and have to start over all over again. A mundane paradigm shift for a mundane anxiety about mundane issues while the world buckles under compounding wars and crises constantly. And yet, I know that these aren't the only feelings I have. These are just what I feel now, reckoning with the dreg heap, with the reality of current events, feeling my mind and body get torn asunder through myriad shames and worries and anxieties, only to force myself to remember that joy and beauty and profundity have never stopped existing this whole year. I cannot end this video without thinking about Gale and the painter. At the end of the Ringed City, you are time warped into the terminal end of all things. The Ringed City, one of the rare gorgeous parts of this game, is rendered into ashen dunes. Everyone is dead or dying, Filianor's body a husk in the instant after you stir her from her slumber. And that is where you meet the final boss of Dark Souls. Not a potent king, not a heralded champion, not some twisted, abominable monster, no Manus or massive, corrupted dragon like my boyfriend Calamite or my boyfriend Sin or my boyfriend Medir, but Gale, a slave knight. He is on a singular hunt for the dark soul. That's it. He's just a guy. A powerful guy, a guy strong enough to kill and survive to be one of the last people alive maybe anywhere ever, but he is ultimately just a guy. You kill him, you attain the blood of the dark soul that he so sought, and all you can do with it really in the story is return to Ariandel, a haunting misremembering of the painted world of the first Dark Souls, and give it to this painter. Her house is on fire, and she seems unbothered. She will use this to paint something new, somewhere new, a home for someone. Maybe that is a fully metaphorical suggestion, another nod to the player that art can be an escape from reality, but I cannot help but think of the painter's easy confidence in her task. She does not express this as some kind of panicked cope, a cynical obligation. It is one of the few, maybe one of the only truly inspired actions in the game. She wants to make something new. In total disregard to the world burning at her feet, she will paint, she will work, and it seems that she will simply do so because she wants to. In that spirit, in these thoughts, I figured that I should do the same. However cheap or meaningless or empty it can feel in the gravity well of the world at large, I cannot just be a creature of obligation. I cannot simply act and live and do what I must do to survive. I have music to write. I have games to make. I have videos much more core to my heart and soul to produce. I have friends to love even when I worry that I will hurt them inevitably. I have love to hold on to even when I worry that I'll lose it, as I have before. I cannot fester in the gravity and inertia of my life simply because the grand scheme makes everything I do feel profoundly small. I cannot simply stare out the window of my room and idly wonder how much longer I'll have to stare at these sights for good or ill. I have to want to find the divine in the bitter, miserable, mundane. I have something to do more than just my purpose. Life continues to happen, both in staggering aggregate and intimately singular ways, and it will continue to do so, up until the very bitter end of all things. Someone will be there, trying desperately to hold on to one last breath. I have to believe that someone will be there. wanting to paint something new. Special thanks to Alex Patanos, Alexi Angelica, Amadel, Athena Stripes, Bees Louise, Blair Renix, Blueberries in My Coffee, Kapopo, Colleen T, Evan Kearns, Foxy Hex, Gail Simmons, Granishu? I actually don't know this one. Please get in touch with me and tell me how to pronounce your name, because I did not think ahead about this one. I'm sorry. Grizz, La Chouette, Lewis Wells, Lores, Maria Aladren, Michael McNay, Nurai the Red Marked, Noun Verbally, Philip Pryor, Professor Bopper, Rob Leon, Saint Rawberry, Some Kind of Dog, Sunny Haven, Thomas Volpez, Tradegood, Trinant, TV's Ross, and Zetetic. Thank you all so much.